All right, let's do a little bit of debugging while we're at it here and see if our array is filling properly, because if the array is not filled properly, that could cause some trouble. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. Right, and that blue line is a breakpoint, and I should be able to just run. And when I hit that line, got an extra simulator floating around. When I hit that line, it should stop so I can look around a little bit. Okay, so now we can look around a little bit. This should have filled the data. Let's see if I can click on members. Doesn't look like it. So now the challenge is, how do I get to my memory location to see what's actually in there? Maybe I can pull under self here. There's members. And there's the first family member, 0, 1, and 2. So there's 3 family members in there. So my first clue, everything looks pretty good. Now I should be able to click on one of these, and there I get that stuff. But seeing the date looks bad, but that's because it's a class. It's got more stuff in it. The names are good. And there's my date. So if yours is not showing that, then something's wrong. You need to figure out what you did wrong to not get the dates in there. But by going into self, I was able to look at members, and then from members kind of dug my way down, and that first record seems to be okay. So that would be the one that would display. And the first screen comes up and it seems to be okay. So I'm going to remove my breakpoint and tell it to continue. It's this, that's a breakpoint button. This one continues. And there's the names. But when we get in here, we get a signal abort uncaught exception. Let's see if it tells us anything. Detail controller, the class for detail description label. All right, so I'm going to go into the details view now and see what's going on in there. Because what should happen is I should get into view.load, which should get me to configure the view. And is this all I have left in that master copy? It's just an if statement, and then the description label dot text, an if statement, if the detail equals the detail, then label birth date dot text equals something. So that's all I've got in there too. That's been commented out. So yeah. Okay, so that didn't tell me anything because I'm pretty much there. So I'm going to put a breakpoint in here and see what happens. And I didn't get that far. Okay, so maybe there's something else that's going on. Uncaught exception, unknown key exception. It's not finding my detailed description label. It can't find it. So that tells me that I'm looking at this error down here, undefined key, and here's the name of the key that it can't find, my detail description label. So now I'm going to go to, and this is a new skill for all of us, including me here, I'm going to go to my storyboard, and I'm going to take a look at all the connections that I have here. And here's a detailed description label, and here's a label birth date. There is no detailed description label in mine anymore. But somehow when I deleted it or renamed it, it still has its wiring. So now I need to get rid of that wiring because I'm using LBL birth date.
Mine let me keep it.
Let you keep it and ran anyways?
Yep.
Maybe
Although I kept both.
You have both labels.
Both the labels in code also.
Yes. But your other one is saying if it doesn't exist, skip it, and it doesn't exist, and that's why it's not skipping it. So somehow I got 2 labels there. And I've seen this on a number of your projects. Right? If they don't work, it's very likely because there's some leftover connection someplace. I had an outlet that used to be called detail label description. Now it's called LBL birth date. And it kept the connection, so you have to go find that connection and delete it. If you get a key value not found, this is what it's looking for, and it couldn't find it. Go to the views, track it down. Let's try this again. Hit the breakpoint. Let's just continue because I'm brave now. There we go. So my date has transferred, my detail has transferred. I should be able to go back now and pick Annette's name, get rid of the breakpoint, please. And her birth date shows up. And Sam, it's amazing how my brain works. Where did Sam Snead come from? It's got its old golfer guy that just popped into my head when I was trying to think of something. I can't guarantee you that's his birthday. But that data seems to be coming in. So now the next thing I want to do is make sure that my detail view can display all three pieces of data. Now in my sample that I showed you, I had them all strung together. But let's get, I don't even know if creative is the right word, but let's get a little braver now and stop it and go into design view and go into the storyboard for the detail view. And I'm now going to delete this, which is dangerous. When I delete it, I don't see any extra references up here, so hopefully it won't complain. And now I'm going to set into this view 2 text boxes for the first and last name and a date picker for the date. So I'm going to pause the recording. I don't think we need to watch that. There's nothing magical while I build it. And then once I have the layout, then I'm going to go back to the code and tweak it. Okay, while the recording was off, I added a couple of text boxes with labels. I added a date picker with a label and created outlets for all of those. And now we have an error here because I deleted my label birth date, which is okay. So I'm going to get rid of my assistant and go back to my detail view so I can see a little more code. And now I just need to fill these things up. So in here, I need to fill in my birth date. So text first name dot text equals whatever's in my detail view dot first name. Same thing for the last name. And finally, the date picker is a little trickier, but not much. I called it DTP birth date dot, is it value? Value, no, dot date. Now notice its type. It's an NS date. This is why my date class has the as NS date property in it, because I wanted to assign it to this. Okay? So now all I have to say is detail.birthdate dot as an NS date. And it sends back that date. When I initially built my date class, it didn't have that as NS date, and then I had to find a way to send it to a date picker. The date picker wanted the NS date. I could have just pulled the property out, the date, but it's a very lame property name. So this says, give me the birth date as an NS date, and to me that makes perfect sense. Question is, does it run? There we go. This is part 1 of your Unit 5 assignment. Create your own, dream up your own. No, you can't use people. At least 3 properties. Feel free to add more. Make this somewhat useful. If you're ready, sometime before the semester's out, we got a month and a half, we should have time. We can set you up as developers and transfer this to an iOS app or iOS device if you have one, and you can use it as long as you're a developer. And I have a couple of iPads in my office that we can tie to, but if you have one and you make something useful, it's not done yet, but fill in a fair number of records here so that you can test it. Make sure you can transfer to the details view. and then all the data transfers over. Use the appropriate type of control to display it. So if you have a date, display a date, but test yourself a little bit. Maybe throw in a slider, throw in a segment, throw in a checkbox, switch. Use the right terms here. And make sure you can set them. Then what we're going to do in part 2 is now capture this data, because this is a text box. And I haven't gotten rid of my keyboard. I don't have a keyboard handler here, so I'm going to have to do that. You'll have to do that. Okay. So that the keyboard goes away when I click, because I'm pretty sure I didn't put that in here. Nope. But I can edit these now, but when I edit them and go back, nothing happens, because we haven't written any code. There's no save button. So the next thing we need to learn how to do is add our own buttons to the nav bar. It'd be nice if I could change this from master to detail to family list and family member. I can change those. We'll learn how to do that in the second phase of this. But for right now, what I want you to do is build your own version of this for something that you might find useful. Justin.
As far as making the keyboard work the way you want it to, do you recommend the first way you showed us or the way we learned in Wonderlic's lab?
Yes, either one. Wonderlic's lab does the same thing, except it doesn't handle the return key. And when you hit the return key in Wonderlic's example, it doesn't get rid of your keyboard. So you still have to wire each one of these objects on did return or whatever it was. You still have to wire that, but you can still have the same event. All Wonderlic's does is it, instead of wiring, actually I like Wonderlic's better now that I think about it. Because in mine, what we had to do was go in here and then go to the outline and change this from just a generic view, its type. We had to change it to something else. Where was it? It's this one here. No, that one.
I
No.
thought you just had to click on the back.
So UI view, we had to change this so that it was an object, remember?
Right. I thought you just had to click on the thing and not open up the view part.
Right. But I don't know, we had to get in here and change this to a UI object, and then we wired that, and then so on. What he did, I think, is a little easier. He just went down here and grabbed the, it was built in, where is it?
Is that tap gesture recognizer? Yep.
Tap gesture recognizer right here. Okay, is my recording still going? Yes, it's still going. All right, and then he just dragged that over to here, and now it's up there. And it's ready to go. Now all we need to do is create a method to deal with that. So I'm going to get rid of my outline view because it's getting in the way. Instead, I'm going to bring up my assistant. Does it still call it the assistant? Yep, assistant editor. There's my assistant editor. And now I'm going to take that gesture recognizer and create not an outlet for it, control drag, but create an action for it. And we can just call this back tap or background tap, whatever you want. And then inside of here, we still have to say text first releases it, so that would be text first name dot resign first responder, and text last name dot resign first responder. And now I can tap and the keyboard will go away, but it won't go away on return. Let's just test that to make sure I haven't broken anything. Uh-oh. I need my hardware keyboard. Didn't have to just a minute ago.
You have to wire your tap gesture recognizer to an outlet.
Not to an outlet, no, I don't think so. What did I do wrong?
You need one on each scene.
No, I think I put it in the right one, didn't I?
Mine works.
Yours works. What did I do wrong? Maybe it's a new edition. That's all I need now is another new edition problem.
Did you rerun it?
Tap, is it a tap gesture recognizer? Is that the right one?
Mine works.
Bummer.
I've
No,
done
good.
it before, and I don't know how I fixed it. It just kept playing around.
It's not hitting that breakpoint, so I must not have wired it right.
When I dragged my tap gesture recognizer, I didn't drag it to the top like you did. I put it on the back.
On the back? What do you mean the back?
Like I didn't drag it all the way to the top bar. I just dragged it into the scene instead of.
Yeah, I think that's where it appears anyways, right?
It lands up there, but I don't know if that made a difference with where it's connected.
Sent actions. So now that I have it, I don't know how to get rid of it. But it's not hitting this breakpoint, so it's not getting in there. Just going to the connection inspectors and not seeing much. How about you? Let's delete that. Any object. Wouldn't be surprised if I got leftovers now. There it goes. I think what Justin was talking about might have made the difference because what I did is I dragged this from up here and dragged it into the view and then rebuilt the connection. So maybe dragging it up here wasn't a very good idea. I needed to drag it into the view. But now it does seem to be releasing everybody. But it still doesn't release on return. Okay, the keyboard stays. So then the next thing I want to do is make a connection for the first name and the last name into there, into this event. So once again, this time I'm going to click the first name, and we had to do the, was it did end on exit? I think that's the right one. So I'm going to take this one and wire it to here. And that's the first name. I'm going to test that before I do the second one. I'm pretty sure it's did end on exit. So first name, return. Yep. So if you want the return and the tap to work, you need to wire them both in there. So now I'm going to select my last name and do the same thing. Did end on exit, wire it to the exact same event. Now I should be able to hit the return button on the last name, last test, and then we'll call it a day here. Hope my daughter doesn't see this because she's been married for 2.5 years and still haven't got her name figured out. Oh well. Okay, that seems to work. But I can't change my daughter's name. And that's what part 2 will do. Part 1 assignment should be on the website. Give you lab time to work on it Wednesday. But you're basically doing what we did in class here. Do Monday, or you got some other systems test or something hanging over your head that Monday's a bad day?
Wednesday's a good day.
Wednesday's a better day? Noted, Wednesday it is. So that would be, let's see, today is the 27th, 29th plus 7 to be the 36th. And so it'd be the 5th of November, I believe. Okay, that's what I'll put in there, that Wednesday around the 5th sometime. Put that in the Blackboard right away.